Imagine a world where the very ground beneath your feet felt twice as heavy. The air around you, a dense, palpable presence. Every step, every breath, a monumental effort. This isn't just a thought experiment. It's a mind-bending what-if scenario. We're about to explore how a fundamental shift like doubled gravity would reshape everything we know. From our bodies to our buildings, from ancient history to our distant future. Join us on a fascinating journey. We'll delve into the science, the societal impacts, the bizarre possibilities, and the profound philosophical questions this altered reality presents. At its core, gravity is the invisible force pulling all mass together. Earth's significant gravitational field is what keeps us firmly grounded, preventing us from floating off into space. It dictates the very rhythm of our planet. For this thought experiment, let's assume a hypothetical mechanism for this doubling. Perhaps a sudden, drastic increase in Earth's mass, or some unprecedented manipulation of space-time itself. The how is less important than the what-if. Newton's law of universal gravitation, F equals G times m1 times m2 over r squared, perfectly illustrates this. If the force of gravity, F, were to double, every interaction between masses would be profoundly altered. This simple change ripples through the entire cosmos. The immediate physical effects would be staggering. Your weight would instantly double. A person weighing 150 pounds would suddenly feel like 300 pounds, an unimaginable burden. Simple tasks would become Herculean feats. Walking, running, or even standing upright would demand immense effort and incredible strength. Your body would be under constant crushing pressure. This immense strain would bear down on bones, muscles, and the heart. Our current biological structures are simply not designed for such relentless stress. Survival would be a daily struggle. The atmosphere would also undergo dramatic changes. It would compress, becoming significantly denser and clinging closer to the Earth's surface. This would create a very different environment. Initially, this denser air might seem beneficial for breathing, offering more oxygen molecules per breath. The increased atmospheric pressure could also trap more heat, leading to a warmer global climate. However, there are significant downsides. A denser atmosphere could concentrate toxic gases closer to the surface, posing new health risks. The increased resistance would also make any form of flight incredibly difficult, if not impossible. Geological impacts would be catastrophic. The entire planet would be under immense internal stress. The very crust of the Earth would groan under the increased gravitational pull. Mountains would slowly but surely be crushed and flattened over geological timescales. Continents would shift with greater force, leading to more frequent and powerful earthquakes. Volcanic eruptions would become more common and devastating. The oceans would not be spared. Sea levels would decrease as the water is pulled more tightly towards the Earth's core. This would expose vast new land masses. Tides, however, would become significantly stronger and more destructive. Coastal regions would face constant battering from colossal tidal forces, reshaping shorelines dramatically. In a double gravity world, the challenge of survival would be paramount. Life as we know it would require a complete overhaul, especially for complex organisms like humans. Our bodies would need radical adaptation. The skeletal system would be the first line of defense. Bones would need to become far denser and stronger, perhaps thicker and heavier, with a different internal structure to support the increased weight. This would be a fundamental evolutionary shift. Muscles would also need to evolve, becoming far more powerful to counteract the constant downward pull. This would likely lead to shorter limbs and a more compact, stocky body build, optimizing leverage and strength. The circulatory system would face immense strain. The heart would have to work twice as hard to pump blood against the increased gravitational force. This could lead to larger, more powerful hearts and highly efficient blood vessels. The respiratory system would also be challenged by the denser atmosphere. Larger, more efficient lungs would be necessary to process the compressed air. A higher red blood cell count might also evolve to maximize oxygen uptake. Human height would be significantly impacted. Natural selection would favor shorter individuals, as a more compact form offers better structural integrity and requires less energy to move against gravity. Giants would be a thing of the past. The impact on other life forms would be equally profound. Large animals like elephants or giraffes would struggle immensely to survive, their massive bodies collapsing under their own weight. Conversely, smaller animals might thrive. Insects, with their exoskeletons and low mass-to-surface area ratio, could find themselves relatively advantaged. Their compact design would be a benefit. Plants would also need to adapt. They would require far stronger stems and roots to anchor themselves and grow upwards against the increased gravitational pull. Trees would likely be shorter and sturdier. In a world of double gravity, every aspect of technology would need to be re-engineered. Our current designs, built for Earth's present gravity, would simply fail under the increased forces. Innovation would be driven by necessity. Architecture and infrastructure would be fundamentally different. Buildings would be shorter, squatter and far more robust, designed to withstand immense downward pressure. Bridges would need to be incredibly strong and heavily reinforced. Transportation would undergo a radical transformation. Air travel, as we know it, would be drastically altered or even rendered impossible due to the dense atmosphere and increased gravitational pull. The energy requirements would be astronomical. The world would shift towards ground-based transportation. High-speed trains, maglev systems, and other efficient heavy-duty forms of transport would dominate. Movement would be slower and more deliberate. Space travel would become an almost insurmountable challenge. Escaping Earth's doubled gravitational well would require an unimaginable amount of power and fuel, pushing the limits of physics and engineering. Materials science would become paramount. There would be an urgent need for stronger yet lighter materials. New alloys, advanced composites, and revolutionary structural designs would be essential for survival and progress. Societal structures would also evolve dramatically. Physicality would become a central aspect of life. Strength, endurance, and resilience would be highly valued traits, shaping social hierarchies. Urban planning would reflect these new realities. Cities would feature shorter, sturdier buildings, with a greater emphasis on horizontal expansion. Underground cities might become a practical and safe solution. The economy would face higher costs for construction and transportation. Resource-rich regions would gain immense importance. Localized economies less reliant on long-distance trade would likely flourish. The social and political landscape might become more hierarchical, based on physical resilience and the ability to perform demanding tasks. However, the sheer difficulty of existence could also foster greater community and cooperation. Culture would inevitably reflect these challenges. Art, music, and literature would likely explore themes of resilience, strength, human spirit, and the constant struggle against an oppressive environment. Consider the ancient world under double gravity. Monumental feats like the pyramids or the Colosseum would have been exponentially harder, perhaps even impossible to construct. Our understanding of ancient engineering would be completely rewritten. Warfare would also be different. Heavy weaponry would be difficult to move. Close-quarters combat, relying on individual strength and heavy compact armaments, would likely dominate. Major empires like the Roman Empire would have faced immense challenges. Their vast infrastructure of roads and aqueducts would be far more difficult to build and maintain. Their legions, reliant on marching long distances, would be severely hampered. The age of exploration would be profoundly altered. Sailing ships would be less effective in denser air and stronger tides. Voyages would be more perilous, delaying or even preventing global exploration. Technological developments, such as the printing press or the compass, might have been delayed or taken different forms. The resources and effort required for basic survival would divert innovation. The Industrial Revolution would face significant hurdles. The development of steam engines, trains, and factories would require greater engineering prowess and stronger materials. Heavy machinery would be essential, but also incredibly difficult to build and operate. Even the World Wars and the Cold War would be unrecognizable. Heavy weaponry like tanks and aircraft would be severely limited or non-existent. Warfare might revert to brutal, localized trench combat. The space race, a defining feature of the Cold War, would be an impossible dream. The development of nuclear weapons, requiring complex engineering and transportation, would also be far more challenging. Looking ahead, future architecture would prioritize stability and strength. Squat, sturdy buildings would dominate the landscape. Vast underground cities protected from surface pressures could become common. Future transportation would rely heavily on high-speed trains, ground vehicles, and advanced maglev systems. Space travel would remain an extreme rarity, reserved for only the most critical missions. Human adaptation would continue. Future generations would be shorter, stronger, and more compact, perfectly suited to their environment. Physical fitness and specialized training would be integral to daily life. Technological advancements would focus on super-strong, lightweight materials. Robotics would play a crucial role in construction, heavy lifting, and tasks too strenuous for humans. Economic and societal shifts would emphasize sustainability and resource management. The high costs of living would necessitate localized economies. Society might remain hierarchical, but cooperation would be essential for survival. Cultural transformation would continue to reflect the challenges and triumphs of humanity. Art, music, and literature would tell stories of resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring human spirit against overwhelming odds. Living in a double-gravity world would force humanity to confront its limitations daily. It would shatter old habits and compel constant adaptation, a perpetual reminder of our fragility and dependence on our environment. It would redefine progress. Innovation would be driven by necessity, prioritizing sustainability and efficiency over endless growth. Every resource, every effort would be carefully considered. Our perspective on time and space would shift. The slower pace of life, dictated by physical effort, might foster a deeper appreciation for nature and the simple things. Every moment would feel more weighty. The meaning of life itself would be re-evaluated. With constant struggle, focus might shift to community, cooperation, and the pursuit of knowledge as essential for collective survival and well-being. It would challenge our understanding of the universe. Such a fundamental change would force us to develop new theories and models, pushing the boundaries of physics and cosmology. This thought experiment raises profound unanswered questions. How could such a fundamental change in gravity even be possible? Would it be a sudden event or a gradual increase? How would life originate under such delicate and complex conditions? Would the very chemistry of early Earth be different, leading to entirely new forms of life? Consider the paradoxes of time travel. If one were to travel to a double-gravity past, how would their body cope? And how would their presence impact the present, given the altered history? Does such a powerful gravitational force imply a form of predetermination? Are our actions, our very existence, dictated by this overwhelming force, or does free will still prevail? Finally, what about consciousness itself? How would the brain function under increased pressure? Would our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions be altered by this constant crushing reality? So, we've journeyed through a world where Earth's gravity doubled. A world of crushing forces, incredible biological adaptations, technological marvels born of necessity, and profound societal shifts. The key takeaway is the universe's incredible complexity. Even a seemingly small change can have ripple effects that reshape everything. It highlights the interconnectedness and fragility of our existence. What are your thoughts on this double gravity world? How do you imagine humanity would adapt? What inventions would become crucial, and what kind of society would emerge? Share your visions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this exploration of alternative realities, please like this video, share it with your curious friends, and subscribe to Alternatify for more mind-bending what-if scenarios. We're always looking for new ideas, so let us know what you'd like us to explore next. Keep exploring the possibilities.